Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another Heads Up 1v1 top tier action here, as we've got another top 100 leaderboard face-off. GL, DauT, needs no introduction, veteran Age of Empires 2 Pro versus the Say Hey Kid. And this one's interesting because I've been cycling through all these games. Everyone is just boring me with France, man. There's only so much I can see of one civ before I want some tasters of another. But we will have to tolerate it on one side. The Say Hey Kid is playing as France, but on the other side, DauT, he's gone for HRE. HRE, probably, I want to say, the least or second least played faction at like the higher level. There is a lot of potential to tap into with HRE, but the problem is that it's harder to achieve because the early game presence feels a lot weaker. And let's explain why. Let's explain actually what HRE is and how they work. So HRE is really focused around infantry and their religion, mainly because the infantry can move 10% faster later, and they also get access to elite men the elite land strikes, which they're AoE units. They can cleave around them. But more importantly, the part of the matters of the eco are these guys here, the prelates. So you can actually start building prelates right at the beginning, and you're like, oh, whoa, hold up, KP. We can't do that because that would interrupt my eco production. No, it'd actually help a lot because these prelates, every 3 seconds, will inspire someone for 30 seconds to gather 40% quicker. So every 10 villagers a prelate can, keep up with, and it's a huge boost to your actual economy, because usually what you can do is you'll use one prelate, like you actually build it as the first thing and then continue building villages. You'll start spamming them out so the villages out so they'll actually get buffed up, and then 2 or 3 on gold will allow you to actually reach second age before your opponent. Like right now, the Say Hey Kid is up 170 gold, right, because he went straight over to it. DauT only just started. Remember, it costs 100 gold to buy these prelates, but they, within like a minute, pay for themselves because look how quickly he's actually gathering gold. So while the Say Hey Kid will be able to hit Tech 2 first, DauT won't be as far behind as you'd expect and actually can scale better because once you get to your Tech 2 options, one of the ones that DauT can take is the Aachen Chapel. The Aachen Chapel, that's how you pronounce it, guys, all right? It's German, it's Flemfield. The way you use the Aachen Chapel is it does that Inspire boost in a giant AoE about this wide, like half a screen, for me it would be, around the chapel with just one of these dudes. It'll inspire as many workers you got in the area. And why this is cool is you can plant it next to a gold vein and like a tree line, and then also near your sheep production, you can initially get free resources covered. And where this booms up in a really awesome way is that you, later on, there it is, there's Aachen Chapel being built. Later on, what you can do is when the gold veins and everything else are gone, you simply replace the area around with farms, and then you just basically get 40% gather speed. In fact, at the later ages, you can upgrade it to be 50% gather speed on farms. Actually, I think it's 15. I believe the tech that you get access to for Inspire later is 10% quicker building, which does work for monuments and landmarks, and then 15% gather rate increase further. So yeah, Aachen Chapel is being built. I don't like this positioning, by the way. I think DauT, I don't know if he misclicked this, or if he's prioritizing his wood line, but I don't think this will affect gold. Like, if you look at this, so the way it works, you have to be clipping on the edge, but I think whenever these guys drop off, and we'll watch them for a sec here. So he drops off. Sorry, gets to 15 because he's got wheelbarrow, right? Yeah, they don't get inspired, so they're just out of range. That's a little bit of a rough one. I think it might even be worth bringing this, like having had this gold mine, this mining camp be slightly less efficient by having being one back, just so they would have all got inspired. That's a little bit of a tough one. These will all be inspired though, so he can just build a second prelate and then stick them over here near the gold, if that's the option he chooses. But we've been focusing a lot on HRE. Let's check in on what France have been doing, because we kind of know their antics. We know their not so chivalrous undertakings is always the filthy knight spam. And this can be quite effective against HRE if the players are being greedy. And the reason I say if they're being greedy is because the way that you usually play HRE is while you have factions that in an eco boom expand wide, such as China that might go for a quick extra TC, Mongols can potentially do it as well. The way that HRE usually works is because you get efficiency in clump, especially due to this Aachen Chapel in the early phase of the game, you actually tighten your eco. Like, your expansion is more, it's clustered. You build high instead of wide, right? So if you do see a second TC, which I'd expect out of DauT, it's probably going to be, say, close on this tree line, right? Or possibly over here because you've got a choke point near this gold vein. But it won't be like super far forward. It won't be on the download in the center of the map near this gold vein, where in some games we see England players do that, or we might see like Rust players do that type of move. It'll be a lot more defensive. But this will allow him to continue to boom up. And the cool thing is, with that in mind, you can actually counter out cavalry skirmishes quite well, mainly because you don't have any other unit that's value to build into early on, so you're going to get some spears, right? But then more importantly, once you have the blacksmith, what you can research as HRE is there's actually a tech that allows your infantry to move 10% faster, which means they can somewhat close gaps on Royal Knights, which remember are slower horsemen. More importantly, if you ever win a melee bout in the early phases, like let's say, for example, France does what we usually see, which is knights and archers. If you break past the knight line, you will be able to chase down those archers, guaranteed. Oh, DauT. Can he get this? Spears? No, they're not enough. That would have been huge. He would have got 5 sheeps out of that. I think he should have been able to attack there. Like, there is definitely some clunky, aggro behavior sometimes when your units get involved in fights. Because like when he was cut off here, it looked like he should have got 3 or 4 spear hits in. I don't know if that's because he clicked on the ground instead of the target, maybe. But I have seen some kind of buggy interactions, especially around elevated areas when it comes to attacking targets. Sometimes even what will happen is you'll like click here, and it might register the click of the tree. I've had that before, and I don't know what causes it. Oh well, I kind of do. I think it's to do with the hitbox sizings on these things. Yeah, first knight spotted. Will be deterred away by the spear. I think 1 Rax should be enough to keep the knights away for like 2-3 minutes. After that, you might need to scale into another one. There should be an outpost soon as well. I think you can at least wall this off. Maybe like just come down here and wall this off so you have food expansion. Like, this is the cool thing about this map. For an HRE player, this map is really good because you have concentrated choke points that you can actually turtle with. And some people might go, oh, KP, we don't want to do that because that means that we're just sitting in our base, dude. Like, we're giving a France player 2/3 of the map. Sure, but you can come out in the mid-game. The difference is that when you come out in the mid-game, you don't have to worry about returning because there's a Knight Force probing your back line and taking out your workers, right? Yeah, so in my opinion, these type of maps definitely favor HRE. HRE, in my opinion, really does struggle in a lot of these games, especially in 1v1s, because the maps are so small they get exploited. But a map like this is very, very good for the German Civ. And before someone just gets technical,
well, actually, the HRE was not a German civilization. They were Austrian.
Yeah, well, I mean, Austrians were considered Germanic as well, thank you.
But technically, they were not just Austrian. They were Italian states.
Yeah, for a short time. Don't try me, buddy. I play way too much Europa Universalis 4, goddammit. All right, enough of having arguments myself. The palisades have started to be built by DauT, and the spears will deter him away, so you can get a Villi out here to complete this. 2 are coming right now. And then I would expect him to wall up here and then just maybe even just keep the center open because it's going to be very hard for anyone to sneak in and then wall it off later. But right now, like, let's actually look at what's happening with these Seihei here, because I feel like we've been focusing so much on HRE, but in fairness, we've been seeing so much France, we expect these openers, right? In terms of woodline, like in terms of eco, actually, yeah, so the Seihei kid is slightly ahead, and this is 100% expected. Like, you should be behind a little bit as HRE when you're equal TCs, mainly because you're building 1 or 2 of the priests, right? Like, I think, has he only built 1? That's a bit rough if he's only built 1. I was expecting 2, because his people aren't always getting inspired on the gold vein. But he might consider building a second one to go over here. Like, I 100% think it's worth having a prelate out on this side. He has just been pop capped, so he needs to actually get a house built quickly. Yo, this knight, is this knight going to get through this? Oh my god, he does as well. All right, so some scouting will definitely happen here. So you might want to consider walling this or just get a few more units so that doesn't happen again. They will eventually break through if they continue with this action here. But it looks like the archer force is ready for the Seihei kid. But look, it's already been matched by DauT, and he's got a few men-at-arms. These men-at-arms are a solid shout at this point in the game. Like, they're still tanky. Even against knights, they'll take damage, sure, but they can take a few hits. And now, archers are exposed. DauT's not paying attention to this right now. Spearmen are going to charge in, but this is barely any spearmen. Where are the rest of his... He had more. At least he did. Unless they got wiped. I think that may be scattered somewhere in the base. He's got AFK workers here because he's trying to sort out the battle. The archers are not trading well, though. There's way too many Frenchmen here. Men-at-Arms need to get in, but they can't really close the gap right now. However, if you concentrate your fire on the Men-at-Arms, then you're kind of being suboptimal as the French player here. And I think he realizes that and backs up. He respects these Men-at-Arms are just a little bit too tanky with free range resistance, as well as you not getting any attack bonuses, the archers. And this is the play against France. Like we said, right? They want to play knights into archers. That really is the opening play for the first 2 ages. So actually having this diversification of just 3 or 4 men-at-arms, a group of spearmen, and then just spam archers does actually counter out and keep them away from you. Final Knight will finally fall. I don't think he sniped any villages either, so this is really good for DauT. No second TC just yet, and I don't think he's likely to race towards one at this point. What I would like to see is maybe just a tech up for tech free soon, though. Mainly so you can get access to the cathedral that gives you a plus 200% extra gold income from relics. It can only store 3, mind you. But the only problem, of course, is then getting out on the map. You need to be out on the map already, which is what DauT's starting to do. He has got an attack force. And I think this is stronger right now than France's. Yeah, France stopped building. Yeah. So France actually invested in a second TC. So they actually don't have new troops coming out just yet. They do have a palisade down, so it won't be an easy entry for DauT. And that might force him to actually have doubts about continuing into this base area. I'm sorry. It would. The comment was there for the taking. I'm guaranteeing I'm not the first person to ever make that comment. All in all, France, to me, in some ways, is a little bit on the timer here. I think if they equally hit tech-free timing, then France has an advantage, but they actually shouldn't be hitting tech-free on equal ground. Honestly, HRE should be ahead. We can already see, look, he's actually mining double the amount of gold right now. And this is all about that Inspire buff, 40% gathering rate. So he should be able to reach tech-free first, and then he should be able to just get an advantage out of like much stronger units, right? Which he can then push. And then he can even push up for Imp Age vastly ahead of France if he opts to go for the Cathedral and manages to bank free of these relics. Is there a second TC yet? Yeah, there it is. So this one has been complete. So France now has 2 TCs. DauT has no info about this at all, by the way. This is all on high ground, and it's actually nicely placed because there's a big fat gold vein here. So this is a little bit worrying because, like I said, you do actually build high instead of wide, and in some ways can rely on a single TC if you're HRE. But that means you actually have to be finding value out of a military force, in my opinion. Otherwise, while you do gather quicker with these Inspire rates at 40%, you're still going to eventually fall behind in villager production, right? Like if you look at it, currently 50 for France and just 37 villagers for HRE. So you're already starting to notice a difference. And while 40% increase in gather does help nullify some of that difference, like once you get to a 20, 30 point difference in terms of like, you know, economy gatherers, then you actually will start to notably fall behind. Looks like they're trying to burn through the walls again, though. This should be deterred pretty quick, as DauT is close by with a nice range force. And this is probably signaling to DauT that he can actually be very chill in this game. Oh, wait, what? Oh, no, they actually path the wrong way. Damn, that's so annoying with the pathfinding interaction sometimes. But yeah, so what I mean by that is DauT, like, because he sees such a crappy small force of knights coming, it means he knows that France is playing eco. Like, he has a defensive force, but he hasn't seen the archers in ages. And if that's all the knights that are showing up, that's probably all the knights that there are. So instead, he's already beginning to tech up. He's already starting to build his third age building. And it is going to be the Regnitz Cathedral. So this is where he should start running prelates out. Like, there's already one moving out of base. I would love to see a second, just so you can... Yeah, there it is, the second one there. So they'll probably heal up and then move out of base. He will have to be a little bit careful because of these knights just camped outside. In fact, if the Say Hey Kid knows how HRE works, he will keep these guys on patrol around the relics on purpose. And yeah, that's... Oh, I don't think... They don't see... Dude, they're going to see each other in a very sad way in a second, and there it is. Oh, no. Not the prelate! No! He was 2 days from retirement, Jimmy! Alright, boys are going to move out now. So this is the importance of actually sending a few spears for a prelate. Because, yeah, maybe they still snipe a prelate situation, but they probably lose 2 knights. And that means it's actually a favorable trade, because even though it's slowing you down from getting your cathedral full, what actually happens there is you're essentially trading 100 gold for, like, almost 300 gold, right? Because remember, these knights cost 140 each. So this time the prelate's going to move out, and he's doing the right move. This is how you're meant to do this. You're meant to just guard, patrol out, and once you secure this one, I think like you should have a second prelate heading north and just have this force start moving up there already. That being said, he could just opt to go south. I don't know if he spotted these knights moving north. What I would actually absolutely love to see out of DauT is just an early outpost in the center of the map, just for info gathering. Like literally just stick it in the stealth forest, and that way you know if like the say hey kid shifts to a north assault or a south assault. Another move that you could make is what DauT's doing, though. So he says, okay, no need to fully stalemate. I've invested in the military, and we have talked about this on this channel time and time again. Economy invested in military early needs to damage economy elsewhere, or at the very least, absolutely counter out military. Otherwise, over time, it's wasted economy, right? Because, like, think about it this way. If I invest 500 food at the 10-minute mark into military instead of economy, yes, I could still use food later to build up my economy later, but it's all about scaling, right? As I build more, villages and I build more TCs, I can build an economy quicker. So this early investment of resources needs to find value. Sometimes it's as a nuclear deterrent. You just use it as a standoff force for like early rush builds. Other times you should be using it to kind of siege into an enemy base somewhat. That being said, that push-in might have actually scared the Say Hey Kid enough that he starts producing units. It's like a fake-out from DauT. Because he actually pushed into the base, what would have likely happened from the French player, and in fact, I think it did fully happen by the looks of it as the Knights are back in base, is your goal is to just kind of posture as if you're doing something. What it does is it forces all the cavalry to run back to base because in the Say Hey Kid's mind, he's like, oh, damn, there's going to be a big fight soon. Yo, he's going to be in my base. I need to be there. Oh, my God, my villages. I've got 2 TCs. There's so much exposed economy. I don't want my people to die. How am I going to lead them to a golden age? Okay, he probably doesn't think all those words in that way because pro players are calm, if you've ever interviewed one. Some of them are fun, but some of them are just like, yeah, the game was good. So he's probably thinking, oh, he's coming in my base. I should defend. There we go. That's the more robotic approach I'm used to, depending on the pro player I talk to. That's not a landscape answer, but I've definitely had plenty of anti-social gamers. You know, it's kids who come to play games professionally. They don't know how to talk to humans. They don't act like a clown like me 24/7. But there you go. He sieges in. So this time he's going to push in to see what's actually here. And this creates space for him to collect the relics. He's already got 2, and he can keep gathering. So the third one's coming in. And he can even opt to keep gathering. He's built additional prelates, right? So he should move them out to gather more relics. And he's going to have to build a monastery anyway to get the other tech benefits that come out of these relics. But the damage is pretty heavy already, actually. Being in the base here, where are the knights? Did he kill them? I think he killed them already. So crossbows might scare him away. There's only 8 of them, but he can't easily identify them amongst the archers. It's one of the big frustrating things I've seen people talk about. Not to mention the fact that high ground advantage is there. I have my doubts that the DauT knows about there's no range damage advantage for Hill, but there is of course a vision advantage, and he couldn't quite see them. But now with the regroup, reinforcements are here, so now he can push forward. That's a lot of man-at-arms as well. 19 of them, and they can chase us down. Remember, 10% movement speed buff for the HRE means that they should easily be able to keep up with this at the 1.25 movement speed. Archers might just get rinsed here by the cavalry, but you kind of don't care. If you can keep on top of these arbors, you'll actually be able to take out the crossbowmen and then rinse through the archers with the remaining men-at-arms. But I think I do see a mistake that's been made here. Yeah, no. Maybe? Yeah, he went for the maces. All right, we'll talk about this afterwards. This fight is going to end with DauT's forces just being wiped by the looks of it. He can't really do much more military damage. He's sniping a few here or there, but he's just outnumbered at this stage. Of course, this is in the base of the French player, which means this buys plenty of time for DauT to start spamming out new units. You can see he's already starting to get Langschneck. Langschneck in these fights will destroy. The way it works is that they actually deal damage in an AoE. They are low health, though, so the way that you usually buffer these is with a front line to absorb shots. And usually you don't want too many of them in the cluster, otherwise the enemy can actually spot them easily, which is why, if you look here, it's only 5 Langschnecks and then 15 of other infantry. He is moving 1 prelate in as well. But this prelate is just here for the relic. Prelates do have combat abilities that they can be unlocked, the way they buff people in combat. It's just so negligible because they do it 1 by 1 and they don't respond to attack clicks correctly. Langschneck's in. In this choke point, this might work out in favor of DauT if he can get the Langschnecks in. They're wrapping around now, and the cavalry come around the back and snipe him out. Langschnecks are all but dead. Only 2 of them left. He's trying to carve these people up like chicken right now, and he almost gets a bunch of them. He'll snipe out a few in the end, but this isn't good enough. So he's going to lose his force again. He's rebuilding in the center. Now we have a little bit of breathing time. Let's talk about why the what he's done with his men-at-arms isn't good. So basically, there's a skill that you can actually, a tech that you can research for your men-at-arms. Here, I'll show you in this menu in the tech trees. And it is to do with two-handed weapons. What it does, heavy maces. Heavy maces, it basically means you get bonus damage. You can see +6 against heavy targets. That means that you kind of become a little bit anti-cav. Not fully, but a little bit. But I think, and someone can correct me in the chat if I'm wrong, but I don't think so because there hasn't been a patch for it so far. This was also an issue, I believe, in the technical stress test. It reduces your attack speed. So I believe your attack speed goes down. I think it was used like 1.5. It goes down to 1.25. And people on the math, you actually lose 2 damage on each of these units overall by researching the heavy mace. So you shouldn't go for that. You should only go for the two-handed, which gives +2. Two-handed is always good, but the heavy mace backfires. Charge in. He has built into Springles here. Not a bad solution to get rid of the knights if you get enough of them clustered up. He needs to start putting out more military, though, because now we're starting to see this control kind of eke towards the Say Hey Kid, but he's still paranoid to push in because the similar situation he can run into that DauT had to deal with is, well, you're running the enemy base. The reinforcement points are right there. That being said, DauT, if he gets his food intake under control, he can actually tech up first here, which I'm not actually against. I actually love to see that kind of speed tech up. It's something you're really good at. He's been gathering more of these relics. He's even gone for the further away ones first. Has he built another monastery, though? Oh, no, he never actually... Oh, yes, right, because this guy got sniped out by the cavalry rap. So this is actually his 3rd relic still that he's trying to get. He still hasn't built a monastery yet, by the way. And the reason this is a big deal is because you can't actually get any of the tech-related benefits. It matters more in Imp. I hope he's just ready when he gets to Imp, because when you get to Imp, you can actually get the treacle of all different resources from relics as well. But outside that, it shouldn't matter too much early on, because as I said, even though prelates can inspire units for combat, it's a 1-by-1 system, so it's just not good. I hope they fix that in some way. I'm not sure how you fix it in a balanced way, because if they buff everything in range, it's going to be broken. For a comparative example, Russ's warrior monks, the way that they buff is like when they themselves get in a fight, right? So there's actually a risk associated with running them in, whereas if you had prelates being AoE, they just stand behind the front line and do nothing. But give ridiculous buffs. All right, so keep control for DauT. He's trying to centralize here. Remember, he's taking to the sacred site, so he's getting a treacle of gold from that. It should be 100 gold per minute, which means that DauT is just swimming in gold. He almost has double the gold income. Fight underway while we're talking about this, and the Springwalls are doing work. This is the thing. All he has to do is keep running the infantry around, flooding in with spears, and if you can't reach the Springwalls, you're going to lose all your forces soon. Another reason why I'm actually kind of expecting Springwalls to get tweaked at this rate. The range on these lads is kind of crazy. Like, you know, you get 7, 8 of these out, they'll each volley will snipe a Royal Knight out. So when you're up against Springwalls, you actually have to get a critical mass that allows you to just overwhelm. You can't get kind of bogged down in slow slogs. The only way you can is if you match with Siege. And it looks like he's starting to build the Mangonels to get through that cluster. Once he gets through that cluster quickly, Springwalls will just crumble. And this is the thing that I love about this game, by the way. Like, we kind of... You can tell it's 2021, folks. We're not in 2004 when we just had the simple triangle of counters, right? Like, cavalry takes out archers. Archers take out infantry. Infantry take out cavalry. Right? No, we developed further, right? I think it's like a... On average, I'd say it's about a 5-way. It's a pentagon of counters sort of thing. And you get different buffs. So, for example, there is a graphic somewhere that can explain this to you. In like very simple terms. Like, honestly, the way they design the graphic is so simple that if you're still using crayons at this point in your life, you'd be able to understand it. You know, I can understand it, so that's my metric. But for example, spears get a triple plus bonus against knights, against horsemen, right? And then horsemen get, I think it's like a +2 against archers. And archers get a +1, I think, against spearmen. All right, bye. Mangonel, not a good investment, folks. This is the thing, like this, he kind of reached a critical mass of Springwalls now that if he keeps enough infantry just rolling out, like DauT doesn't actually have to be scared of the Say Hey Kid. Like, look at him. He's just completely on the back foot. He keeps moving back. He's never actually looking to engage here. He's trying to buy time, but the question really remains, what for? The only good news right now for the Say Hey Kid is that these Springalds are not good at sieging buildings. However, a giant-ass clump of Spearmen and Landschrecks are. And he's forced to fight. Nice cover as well. Spearman will block out any assault into the Springalds. He'll back up for a moment, vision being given, sniping out these boys one by one. He needs to be careful, because whenever you retreat, that means the Landschrecks are going to be closest to the enemy when you actually form up. And the flank around the back coming in from the Say Hey Kid. He's got plenty of Royal Knights to cut off and kill all of the Springalds. And DauT is going to be back to step one. Amazing flank around coming out from the Say Hey Kid. It did look a bit sus. I wondered where the rest of his melee was. They just went on a wide wrap. And so far, these flanking maneuvers out of France have been on point. Just to put it in a different way, mwah, they've been magnifico. And this is the point where DauT probably needs to start getting Mangonels instead of Springalds. Because there's just so many horse to deal with. I think actually, genuinely, the Mangonels would have just been better. And now you're a step behind. He's starting to build more keeps. He's trying to slow these chasers down so they can't get rid of the Springalds. And he's trying to cut off any retreat. Remember, these men-at-arms do get a slight buff up against the Royal Knights, but overall, this is still a unit that nerfs itself by researching that tech. And there's the barracks spam we've been waiting for. So DauT understands he needs to reinforce the front line much quicker. These 5 racks back in base, it's just too far to run, even for a 10% movement speed buff on infantry. Keeper's being built, by the way, and his workers are exposed. These guys are going to die. So DauT, he comes at it from the wrong angle. He's going to be punished as a result. The charging is going to be there, though. Have they got enough troops here? There's no Landschrecks involved, which means that they actually can't really trade evenly or even fairly with the archers. Forced back completely. Mangonel is now out, which should set France back a little bit. That means the Say Hey Kid will now actually have to rethink his plans. He has continued with his eco productions, by the way, moving out to these gold veins. So in terms of income now, the Say Hey Kid is catching up. DauT is inherently going to be ahead of him just because of this cathedral alone, getting 300 gold per minute, not to mention controlling 2 sacred sites, now to be 1, which was also buffing up his gold. So second keep will go down. Stone production is pretty good for the Say Hey Kid, rather, but he hasn't built a keep forward yet. He is now starting to build siege workshops in the center. I'd love to see this backed up by a keep on the other side of the sacred site so that no one will be able to take control of it once it gets decapped. And this annoying little move around the back, it's just 2 knights invested in distracting your opponent. You can already see, actually, the immediate response. DauT is going to build a keep back here. He actually could have built it this close, but I think from his perspective, let's look at it like this, guys. If I check his view, he can't see. So he doesn't know that it's just 2 knights and literally just 2 knights here. He doesn't see the primary force. So for all he knows, this is like just a kind of offset distraction before 20 knights come in. So I respect this move by DauT. Just a defensive keep instead of like a more aggressively placed one. Should cover his flanks. His north is still vulnerable. Nothing actually covers that, and he also has exposed eco here. And the interesting part is that actually, you can already see there's going to be a little raiding force coming in there. And also, let's keep in mind that the Say Hey Kid has been expanding up this way, so he'll be able to kind of exploit those weaknesses if they continue to be unaddressed. Say Hey Kid. He has got the trebs. High ground trebs. Yo, he stations them here. They can actually reach the keep. From everything I've seen, there is no additional range for height advantage. I really do need to like find a confirmed place for that, but there definitely wasn't in the stress test. The only thing you got as a bonus on high ground was vision. But it was pretty substantial vision. Like, y'all could see. Y'all could see things, you know? Like, look at this. Look at the vision. Like, look how far they see. But it's actually not going to be the French player to strike first. DauT is the first one to start attacking with his trebs as he's looking to take down these keeps. And he's going to build the Elsbach Palace, so he's going defensive here. You have 2 choices as HRE, but the second choice is like, it's situationally good if your eco got harassed early. So let me explain. You can build the Palace, which is just another one of those, yo, we do more damage, zoop, zoop, everyone dies. Your alternative is a town center that produces, and most people don't opt for it because it's a tech 4 town center. But what makes it so good is that it produces villagers at 25% the cost and produces them 75% faster. It is a nutty building to make a huge eco expansion if your economy's been damaged. But DauT, because of his positioning, I like this choice because, and there's the tech up by the way, he's not really exposed. Like, he has his eco and his eco is stable. He also has his gold income, so he's being buffered there. He doesn't necessarily have to go above 100 villages at any point here. So for him, going for that TC would be a waste. Having additional defenses in the center of the map, very nice. I don't know why we don't. Good old ball. Yeah, Trebs are working on it. They're actually keeping these workers off of the gold as well, and they're not continuing repairs quick enough. There's the tech up. So France more or less matching the timings, and these Knights got in. They actually broke in, and they can run around the back and just cause a nuisance here, as there is a gold mining area and a stone area kind of exposed. We'll see if he does that. He's even got Knights here. So DauT did realize this and move forces to try and defend this area after it got raided, but obviously they're infantry, right? So the French Knights can just move past. Like, there's no threat to the French horseman here, as he doesn't have any ranged units here. There's not enough spears to create a dense line, so he can just waste his time. And he is getting good scouting information. That's the biggest reason that the Seihek is doing this. So he's kind of seeing what's being built. Now, he should realize there is 5 monasteries in this base, which is why DauT is making bank. Also, by the way, DauT should start reaching the point where he gets Typh Barns. He's got enough gold now, and I'd 100% advise it here. Getting plus 30 food, wood, and stone from each of these relics means he's going to get an additional 150 of each per minute. Translates into this thing will pay for itself within like 2-3 minutes. So French Knights now starting to be on the wings. I'd love to see him bring another group of French Knights into this southern area again, burn down like the entry, just basically keep DauT on his toes. Because DauT is continuing his siege. Like, he's not actually distracting DauT away from the center of the area of the map yet, which is concerning to me. He finally has his Trebs working, but his Trebs are trying to snipe a prelate. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, do not do this with trebuchets. They are not very accurate at attacking small targets. Buildings, yes, thumbs up, very good. Killing priests, yes, he gets it, but it took like, what was it, 2 volleys? Just target buildings. He might go for... Is he going for the Springles? No, I was about to say, I don't think he has range for Springles. He has to be like here for Springles. And I think with upgraded Springles, they should be just out of range, but they could very quickly get close enough to attack you, basically. Nice in position here, by the way. They can't really salt this tree line. It is protected by the keep. But when this keep goes down, which it will very quickly now that cannons are starting to be produced by DauT, he'll just be able to flood in and then start working his way around the back. And if you look at this, the Seihek doesn't have good defenses at the back. He started to build a full base here, right? He's even built the College of Artillery here to get better artillery. As you can see, he's starting to actually spam out cannons. But he has to assault through a keep line, right? Whereas once this is gone, the infantry can just run around the back, and there's just a crappy palisade. There's not even a stone wall here to protect this. So his whole economy could become exposed in the blink of an eye here. Okay, his whole economy might just die to a wolf. We saw this in a previous game. It will take a long time, but given enough time, ignored for long enough, this wolf will be lethal, guys, I swear. Charge in. We might be about to see a decisive fight. DauT moved his army elsewhere. He's sending a contingent force which he can replace with all of his military production builds here, but the keeper's already down. So he's going to become exposed really quick. If he wants to make a move into the main base, he needs to be quicker than this. Moving now. Remember, he has got the Springles to protect his artillery, so there won't be any Springle sniping coming out from France. France is committed to this stage. 25 Knights on the front line, trip cannons, and plenty of ranged units to back them up. And this small contingent waiting in the stealth forest is going to charge out, but the keep is falling quick. They need to start repairing it, and he knows it. Cannons are just burning through. They will turn around to deal with the infantry instead. He's not producing his infantry quick enough to keep them up either. And the keep is soon going to fall. He needs to get in the base right now, but he's chasing villagers on the side, which means he's not even entering the base yet. Because DauT is actually being distracted by the primary fight, which has his full attention as they just rush in with the French forces. Keep doing some work, but these knights are mighty tanky. It's going to be another keep fallen. The Elsbach Palace is still standing. He didn't research the upgrades for it, though. He's building more keeps behind this line just to try and distract. But remember, for the Seihek kid, he has a way right into the primary base from here. He doesn't have to worry about going north. He does have to worry about his own base, though, because DauT is in. He's going for the TC. Remember, though, there's multiple TCs here. Only 2. I don't think he's built a 3rd yet. But he could move and make an expansion here if he feels threatened. And his landmarks, remember, one of his landmarks is down here. Meanwhile, DauT Slambuck is on the front line, and the rest of them are exposed. But it looks like he's giving up. He's retreating. He doesn't believe he can get through all this quick enough. He's actually going to come back to try and defend, but the damage might already be done by DauT. Going for another Guild Hall, trying to get rid of it quickly. Trebs, cannons, everything deployed. They're trying to snipe out the School of Cavalry as well. He needs to get this TC to feel really good about this. He's going to have to regroup because his artillery line is now exposed. The Knights are charging in. He's trying to move across to cut them off, and it will force them into retreat. But this is just buying time. The Say Hey Kid, he's almost got his archers here. The cannons have arrived as well. They'll begin sniping out, and there it is. There's going to be some trades here. The Springwall's just trying to get rid of the cannons. If you can make this a 1-for-1 trade, DauT should feel good about this because cannons are more costly. But look at this. He exposed the cannon line. He's straight in. And Arms doing the work. They're straight on top of this. The cavalry are going to try and wrap around and make this a trade as they do get chased onto. He's still keeping a Mangonel alive. And if he hits this cluster with 1 or 2 shots from the Mangonel, they'll almost all be dead. But he has lost his frontline units. He did get rid of all but one of the cannons. Mangonel is still going to town on these targets. He needs to switch over to the archers now, but it's going to be too late at this rate. They're starting to target him down. One more volley would be enough that they can actually wreck through them with the Langschnecks here. And in fact, I think he's going to get the volley off. Mangonel fires. Nice sidestep. It actually gets dodged by most of the targets, which means he'll be able to clean up the rest of these military forces. But most of his base has just been eviscerated. A big chunk of it gone. And the eco damage is going to be noticeable here. DauT, by the way, still healthy because there was never an eco attack on him. I love this move from DauT, and this shows you what a pro-level player is thinking about. A man who has so many hours in RTSs, he understands that he can replace his military because his economy is good. The Say Hey Kid, on the other hand, well, his eco is strong in his current context. His food intake, look at it, it's just in the ground. It's just buried at this stage. 400 compared to over 2,000 per minute for DauT. And all that being said, if we actually look at it, trades at the end of the day are in favor of DauT. He just burnt through all the forces. And with that moment, that just might be GG. Look, the reinforcements coming in. Barely any knights left over. Barely any crossbows to work with. GG will be called DauT takes the victory and shows us exactly how you should play HRE.